Hello and welcome to New Frontiers on CCTV International. I'm Ji Xiaojun in Beijing. In the year 221 BC, Qin Shi Huang unified China and became China's first emperor. By the time of the reign of the Han Emperor Wu Di, 100 years later, a multi-ethnic society had been built up, dominated by the Han ethnic group. Han culture provided a solid foundation on which China could establish its reputation in the ancient world as a powerful nation that was politically and culturally advanced. And inside the united country, the various ethnic groups were free to give expression to their creativity. A fruit of this ethnic harmony was Qin Han culture, the achievements of which have been a source of East Asian pride ever since.
When Qin Shi Huang unified China in the year 221 BC, he became China's first emperor. By the time of the Han Dynasty Emperor Wu Di, who reigned from 141 BC to 86 BC, a multi-ethnic nation dominated by the Han ethnic group was firmly established. The main currents of Han culture had taken their basic shape, and China was becoming known throughout the world as a powerful nation that was politically and culturally advanced. Within this great united country, all ethnic groups were able to give full expression to their creativity, and together they created Qin Han culture, the accomplishments of which have been a source of East Asian pride ever since. In the winter of the year 198 BC, a Han princess was married off to a chief of the Xiongnu, one of the northern tribes. It was a gesture intended to improve diplomatic relations, and it was a diplomatic move that bought China time to recover. During their combined period of 40 years of reign, Han Emperors Wen Di and Jing Di followed a policy of reducing both taxes and compulsory labor. As a result, the people were able to recuperate from the years of turmoil, and the country began to become rich and powerful. At a place called Yangling, one can visit the mausoleum of Emperor Jing Di, who was revered in history as a good emperor. He was certainly one of the most frugal of the Han emperors, even though a substantial quantity of riches was buried with him in his tomb. Many Han Dynasty imperial mausoleums are surrounded by secondary burial pits. In fact, there are no less than 157 of them in the 10 square kilometers that make up the Han imperial burial grounds. When archaeologists began excavating and cataloguing some of the secondary burial pits at Yangling in the 1990s, they found the results astonishing. Artifacts representing all aspects of the emperor's material life had been buried here. Food, chariots and horses, draft animals, pigs, dogs, cattle and sheep, statues of slaves, male and female, and various soldiers. All of this makes it clear that the emperors led affluent lifestyles. The numerous male and female statues perhaps represent the people who guarded and served the emperor during his lifetime. When they were buried, they would have been dressed in silk garments or leather armor. Even though the clothing is mostly decomposed, it isn't difficult to imagine how magnificent they would have been. The clothing and accessories of Han women were stylish, free-flowing and natural-looking. From the statues, it seems that noble women of the Han dynasty carried themselves with a tranquil bearing, but radiated an inner happiness. It has been well noted that the terracotta warriors of the Qin dynasty have countenances that are utterly expressionless and very serious. These Han statues, on the other hand, all have relaxed expressions, suggesting that their lives were satisfying.
因为汉初的时候有一个很明显的对照，汉初是据说天子不能居君嗣，就是皇帝出来拉车那4匹马找不到毛色一样的，就是社会很贫困啊。将相活乘牛车，坐不起马车。那么到了汉武帝时代，经过文景2代的这个70年的这个积累。 这个时候就养马业就非常好了，就说是，阡陌之间成群，然后就是朋友们聚会，大家一起聚会的时候，你如果骑了匹母马的话，就会受到嘲笑的，大家都会看不起你。
In ancient times, horses played as important a role in war as tanks do today. Emperor Wen established a horse breeding program. And by the end of the reign of Emperor Jingdi, it was enormously successful. By that time, there were 36 horse-breeding ranches with 300,000 war horses spread over northwest China. The Han court finally had a powerful cavalry, and it was an important weapon in Emperor Wu Di's proactive defense strategy. Emperor Wu Di sought the finest breeds of horses in China's northwest on 2 occasions. He found one suitable breed from the area around Dunhuang, while the second breed, known as blood-sweating horses, was acquired by a general who went on an expedition to present-day Uzbekistan. The emperor was so happy with these breeds that he wrote a poem in praise of them. From that time on, the phrase "heavenly horses from the west" became a kind of slogan that epitomized the bold spirit that expanded the empire westward. On the Central Plains near Chang'an, along a 50-kilometer line east to west, are 11 tombs of Western Han emperors. The largest of these is that of Emperor Wu Di at Maoling, and in terms of size, it is second only to the tomb of Qin Shi Huang. These tombs, which look like hills jutting out from the flat plains, have given silent testament to the magnificence of the Western Han dynasty for 2,000 years.
Around a century into the Han Dynasty, the agricultural economy in the Yellow River Valley was being seriously disrupted by military incursions carried out by nomadic tribes from the north. Well, the imperial court decided that the country was now powerful enough to do something about strengthening stability within its borders.
After Emperor Wu Di ascended the throne in the year 140 BC, he carried on the policies of Emperors Wen Di and Jing Di that had made the country strong and prosperous. And from the very start, he was unwilling to tolerate being at the head of a government that was weak and passive in the face of attack. Liu Bang, who had been the first emperor of the Han dynasty, had carried forward the imperial system created by Qin Shi Huang, and Emperor Wu Di further strengthened and improved it, and made the empire a mighty power. Over time, a number of exceptional warriors emerged. In the year 119 BC, Emperor Wu Di ordered generals Wei Qing and Huo Qubian to lead an expedition to defeat the nomadic tribes in the north. Thus, the threat they had posed for so long would be eliminated. The armies followed separate routes north into present-day Mongolia. After winning a decisive victory, General Huo pursued the remnants of the defeated army to the shores of Lake Baikal. Although China's first emperor Qin Shi Huang had unified the nation, it wasn't until the reign of Han Emperor Wu Di that the country was firmly consolidated. After the victory against the nomadic tribes, the tribes were divided into two. The southern group became reconciled with the Han government and lived in harmony with China for many years. The Han government also created two prefectures in the northwest, Shuofang and Wuyuan. Many buildings in Chang'an at that time had roof tiles inscribed with phrases such as "thousand-year reign" and "worldwide Han rule." Everywhere, slogans could be seen expressing the high spirits of the nation.
在人们的意识中间，在人们的精神中间，人们的这个文化理念中间呢，也形成为了一个，我们就是这个文化共同体的成员，我们就是汉王朝的这个臣民，已经形成了国家意识，早期的国家意识也非常鲜明了。
What was called the Western Territories during the Han Dynasty basically encompasses present-day Xinjiang. There were 36 nations within the territory, with populations ranging from 600 to 80,000. In the year 139 BC, Zhang Qian embarked on a diplomatic mission to the western regions, and he only returned to Chang'an after 13 years of hardship. In his report to Emperor Wu Di, Zhang urged him to establish trade contacts with the nations there and to ensure the security of the east-west transport route. The emperor accepted Zhang's suggestion, and the Silk Road was incorporated into China's economic and security strategy.
他是把这个西域的信息反馈给汉朝政府，汉朝政府尤其是汉武帝，一看这西方这个西边还有那么大的一块地方，物产那么丰富，打开了他的眼界，他使他下决心要通西域。只有汉朝通西域以后，把这个现在这个新疆地区的交通线整合，完了他的力量又到了现在中亚地区。
Zhang Qian's report included news of Iran, India and other Central Asian countries, and at the end, news of the Roman Empire, the westernmost destination of silk exported from China. After the Han army defeated the Huns and the Western Corridor was opened, the 36 nations of the Western territories pledged allegiance to the Han court. With that, the Han court began to garrison troops in the territories and set up the Protectorate of the Western Territories, which established effective control over all the nations there. Conflicts between the nations were settled, and the Western Han dynasty entered a flourishing period of peace and development. After Zhang Qian opened up the Silk Road, cultural and economic contacts between the East and West became common, and the Silk Road continued to bring prosperity to China through successive dynasties right up until the Yuan dynasty in the 13th century. The starting point of the Silk Road was Chang'an. By the middle of the reign of the Western Han, the city had been expanded several times and was now truly massive. The sprawling palace occupied fully 1/3 of the city, and outside the city proper, there were 160 residential neighborhoods called Li. Cities can't survive without markets, and Chang'an had 9 of them. All were supervised by the government, and they were divided into an eastern market and a western market. All transactions had to be carried out in accordance with government regulations, and the system instituted at that time continued for hundreds of years until the end of the Tang dynasty. In the Han dynasty, the city of Chang'an was already a rich city with wide boulevards. Pedestrian traffic was heavy, and business was highly developed. By the 6th year of the reign of Emperor Wu Di, the population of China had reached 37 million. The population of Chang'an was 250,000, but this figure swells to 1 million if you include the population of the satellite towns surrounding it. Chang'an was certainly comparable in size and influence to Rome. In fact, the two cities stood unrivaled at the two ends of the known world. Music, dance and theatre were the staples of Han marketplace culture, and these art forms assimilated foreign artistic influences. The audiences for such performances, however, were confined to the rich and powerful, and the performers came from the ranks of the common people. It's hard to imagine how rich people could be in the Han Dynasty, but historical documents include numerous accounts of the emperor bestowing large quantities of gold on this or that individual. In the 70 years from the beginning of the Han Dynasty until the ascension to the throne of Emperor Wu Di, China experienced political stability and suffered no serious natural disasters. State finances constantly improved, and the people prospered. This was a time when the government enjoyed great prestige and the country enjoyed peace and prosperity. China was not only the most populous country in the world, it was also the richest.
"钱很多，是吧？中央的财政应该财政这个积累很大。 这个所谓钱呢，就是船前的绳子烂掉了，仓过国家太仓里的粮食呢吃不完，都腐烂掉了，我想呢，这个群众至于百姓当中的这个生活富裕到什么程度应该说是可想而知的。
Large numbers of books and records were stored at Weiyang Palace in Tianlu Hall, and this is probably where the great historian Sima Qian began his research. His work, Records of the Historian, was completed in the year 98 BC. Sima Qian's masterpiece was the first of 24 histories spanning all of China's dynasties up to that time. It began in remote antiquity in the era of the Yellow Emperor and ended with the reign of Han Emperor Wu Di.
司马迁的历史观呢，是多民族大一统中央集权的历史观，所以写史记这本书就能看出来。更发展的一步呢是汉书，班固写汉书，汉书里边有地理志，把全国中央呢在长安，全国呢多少郡，103个郡吧，多少县上千个县。 从中央一直写到东海边，长江、黄河、长江，一直到岳江，一直到海南岛、西南夷，一直到云南、贵州，多少郡、多少县都写了。
Never before in history had such a vast land and so many ethnic groups been unified. And this unprecedented situation raised an important question. What sort of philosophy and ethical guidelines would best serve ruling such a large and diverse country?
A review of the Qin and Han dynasties onward reveals that many scholars proudly joined in the effort to create the political theory and social ideals that contributed to the lengthy period of peace and prosperity enjoyed during the Han dynasty. This was a time when the ideal of a unified country was being developed, and the people of all of China's ethnic groups worked together to gradually make it a reality.
以汉族为主体的这样一个中华民族已经形成了，它的形成过程和秦汉时代这个由王国到帝国的这个中央帝国、中央集权的统一的国家的形成是密切相关的。
In the Han Dynasty, Chinese intellectuals helped spread Han culture by embodying it in their own lives, and they created an entire set of cultural standards covering literature, law, ethics and social customs, while drawing on the wisdom of all the ethnic groups. At the same time, points of agreement were sought with these ethnic groups while resolving differences with them, thereby creating the great traditions of Chinese civilization. However, never before in history had such a vast land and so many ethnic groups been unified, and this raised an important question. What kind of thinking and ideals should be used to rule such a large country? In the end, Emperor Wudi accepted the suggestion of Dong Zhongshu that Confucian thought and teaching become the official doctrine of the state, and that all other schools of thought be banned. Thus began a period of 2,000 years in which Confucius was revered above all others.
中华文明这样一个历史能够几千年延续下来，它的不变的 DNA 的存在是根本。这种不变的 DNA 是什么呢？我觉得，从这个精神领域，就是它的一种，比如在汉代确立以这个独尊儒术，就儒家思想，尽管它是在公元前这个500年左右，是吧？由于当时的一些学者。 比如包括以孔子为代表的学者提出来了，但是作为一种国家行为，变成一种国家的统治思想，是在汉代确立下来的。
The greatest legacy of the Han Dynasty is its innovation and implementation of its theory about what a state should be like. From Liubang, the first emperor of Han, until the ascension of Emperor Wudi to the throne, the dominant political thought in China had been Taoism. The guiding principle of Taoism was governing by achieving harmony with nature. But by the time of Emperor Wudi, China had become more powerful militarily and stronger economically, and so this emperor adopted a more proactive approach. The Han court looked upon the legend of the 5 great emperors of antiquity, the foremost of whom was the Yellow Emperor, as the centerpiece of its official ideology. It maintained that Chinese civilization had developed slowly over many centuries, with the greatest contribution made by the Han people, supplemented by the efforts of all the other ethnic groups. In the year 110 BC, Emperor Wudi led tens of thousands of people on a pilgrimage that was unprecedented in scale. The pilgrimage led to Mount Tai, the foremost of China's 5 sacred mountains, and at Mount Tai, the emperor offered sacrifices to heaven and earth. China had become a unified multi-ethnic country, one that had achieved unparalleled cohesion. The Chinese nation appeared on the stage of human history with an entirely new demeanor.
一种空前的那种民族凝聚力，因为当时的世界上还没有这样一个几千万人的一个民族能够凝聚在这样一个核心四周，凝聚在这样一个旗帜之下，凝聚在这样一个政治体制之内。
The great undertaking of uniting all of China's ethnic groups into a single state and integrating them both geographically and culturally began with the Qin dynasty. The community of nations created by this in the land of China has been the source of the endless vitality of Chinese civilization down through the ages.
During the Qing and Han dynasties, major advances were made in many aspects of society. Reforms were carried out of the political system and the social economy and in the relations among ethnic groups and foreign exchange. All these developments, in their turn, served to cultivate the rich and splendid Qing and Han culture. For many generations since, the achievements of Qing and Han in science and technology, philosophy and religion, history and literature, and sculpture and painting have exerted a powerful influence. Perhaps most importantly, it was under Qing and Han that Chinese culture gained its first exposure to the outside world. And thank you for staying with us on New Frontiers. Tune in again next time when we'll continue with our major series, Chinese Civilization. I'm Ji Xiaojun from CCTV International. Bye for now.